We will never be there. More wild. I'm not sure. I'm cheap and I'm good. The end of the top queen and king KOL. It's getting almost too expensive in terms of media to have a good ROI on platforms.
Cyril, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for joining this show. It's always a pleasure to have you. I know you for quite some time, and every time I see you, that means I'm going to learn something new, because that's lots of events, and I'm looking forward to this sharing. You look like Lawai to me.
Yes, I'm still a Lawai.
Still Lawai.
Yes.
And that's actually the traditional question I usually ask foreigners here. But before I ask, I also want to say that when I check your LinkedIn, right, I see this thing that was like, wow, that's super interesting. So you actually started your career in Asia in 1997.
Yes.
So it's been pretty much already long time.
25 years, yes.
25 years. So my question is, what's your Asia story and what's your China story specifically, since we are in Shanghai now?
Yeah, so I arrived in, actually I started by Korea. I was in South Korea for 2 years doing my military duty.
Interesting.
I was in Korea working for the consulate, actually, the French consulate there. So I spent 2 years in Korea. I was in charge of IT, and so because I have a strong IT and mathematics background. That doesn't look like, because now I'm in advertising business, but actually I was an IT guy for 10 years in my life. And then I moved to Hong Kong, and then finally I moved to Guangzhou, and then finally I moved to Shanghai. So this is how it works. So I arrived in Hong Kong in 1998. I worked there as a CTO, Chief Technology Officer, for a software company for almost almost 3 years actually. Then the company was sold to IBM, and then I started Bysoft in Guangzhou in 2003. This is how it started.
That's my actually next question around the Bysoft, right? Let's dive right into what you're doing already for at least 20 years. So Bysoft was your first company that you started here in China?
Yes.
And it was in 2003. And so my question is, where did you see the opportunity? Why did you start the company? And actually I'm also very interested in, because I also started my entrepreneurial journey back in 2016, which has been already like 6 years. But I just cannot imagine, if you started back in 2003, how many things already changed and how many changes you've been through personally?
It's a good question. So when I started in Guangzhou, actually, I started in China because it was cheap. It looks strange now from Shanghai, where actually salaries are among the highest in the world. Actually, at that time in Guangzhou, IT people, and I started as an IT outsourcing agency, outsourcing for mainly European clients. And then I moved to the agency business few years later. And then I moved to specifically to e-commerce business, mostly because I saw the birth of Alibaba in China, Taobao actually, and then we've been asked by a lot of foreign brands, like Lawai brands in Guangzhou, to manage actually their Taobao stores and to design their website, because at that time we were still designing websites in China. We don't do it anymore, but this is how it all started. So I had a bunch of tech people, designers, a bit of art people as well, and of course operation people, because you need to operate everything. This is how it started in Guangzhou, and then I opened the office in Shanghai in 2008, I think, so 5 years later. And I sold to Publicis in 2015.
So, but I mean, this is the one part, right? But the other side is basically operating the business as the foreigner back in 23. How was it? Opening the company and applying for all these licenses and business license and everything.
But to
was
me,
it difficult?
No, but I never think admin stuff will be complicated. Otherwise, in China, anywhere in the world, if you want to start a business, if you start thinking, oh, this is complicated, I need to deal with finance, I need to deal with banks, I need to deal with tax office, whatever, then you never start, because you will always find a reason not to start. So the admin part of the entrepreneurship journey never really bothers me. I know I will still find a solution. I agree in 2003 it was a bit more wild, most probably in Guangzhou than now in Shanghai. But it was quite easy actually to open to get the business license under my name, to open an office, to hire people and everything. You just need to have the right partners doing that. I don't want to spend time doing it. So I had a lawyer, I had an admin girl, whatever. It was not complicated. Which was more complicated was internet at that time in China. Because it took sometimes a night actually to transfer a file back to back to Europe. So it was more challenging, yes. This part was a bit challenging, yes.
BysoftChina was acquired by Publicis Group, right? That's what you already mentioned. But it's been actually a very long way, right? I think it's been around like 13 years developing the company before it was acquired.
Yes.
So the hard work definitely paid off. But my question is about, what did you learn? What were your kind of like 3 biggest learnings from running your own business?
I would say first, when you have your own business, you need to be flexible, which means like I did pivot actually a few times in the way I used to make money with Bysoft. We started as an outsourcing IT company, then we became an e-commerce agency, and finally we became an e-commerce creative agency, which is even something different. So yes, so we did pivot quite a lot in terms of business model. You need to be ready to follow the market trends. Something else I learned, and I learned it the hard way, is the finance part of the business. Especially when you are a young entrepreneur, you don't think finance is an issue, and actually it's I would say like the financial model on how you make money, how you spend money, and the gross margin and everything is the key part of the business if you want to survive. So I learned it because it was not, I had no finance background. So being an engineer in math and IT, actually you don't know finance. So this part, definitely I learned it along the way, and if I have to start again, I will study finance before. Definitely. Finance, accounting, this kind of stuff. Definitely. So yeah, pivoting and having a good financial planning, financial background, it's quite important. And then when you are small, having a good team, it's complicated. Because people, they come to you, and then if they find basically they learn with you, and after 1 or 2 years they will join a big agency, or they will find better opportunities for them. So you need to lead the team in a very strong way, actually, being there for them, and you really need to be to give them some inspiration. If you don't give them anything, they just leave. If you ask them to, okay, you come to the office, you work on this project, and then you go home, it doesn't work. You really need to give them something else, and this something else, it's a very strong company culture, and we used to have that in Guangzhou, super strong. So we had and it's more complicated in Shanghai actually, because people in Shanghai are more volatile. But in Guangzhou, we used to have that. Yes, very, very, very strong company values and structure.
I will put those takeaways for the article on LinkedIn. And also a question, I'm curious about it, because you've been already in this industry for quite some time, right? And you've seen lots of changes. I'm just curious to see what are the big changes happened within like last 10, 15 years in e-commerce in China, in terms of the market share, the consumers' activities, the growth, etc.
Well, it's completely changed, but just few interesting things. When I was talking to a luxury brand 10 years ago, I told them like, okay, you need to be on Taobao. They all laugh at me. They say, we will never be there. No. So I went to all of them, especially they are French, so it's easy for me to get there. So none of them, and now they're all there. So this is a lesson learned actually for all of those. Never say never, especially in China, because this is just too powerful. They can't actually avoid it anymore. So in terms of budget as well. Budgets. When I started, in China, a typical Tmall contract was like, I don't know, 20,000, 30,000 RMB a month for media. Okay, now it's like 100 times more, maybe 1,000 times more. So the media money brands are pouring into e-commerce has completely changed. Okay, this is the scale. It's completely. I believe for some of the brands now, it's the largest media spending is with e-commerce. Definitely, it's not anymore on TV or whatever. When I started, TV was still very, very important. E-commerce was very, very small, and actually now it's exactly the opposite. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the market right now, you have some categories over 50% of the total retail actually are on e-commerce, come from e-commerce. So it's a natural flow for the media money to go there. It makes sense. What has changed a lot as well is WeChat. When I started in China, WeChat did not exist. It looks crazy, but it's true. Like we were with QQ basically, QQ and text messages. And yes, this has changed a lot the way we work with brands, we talk to shoppers, we try to convert shoppers, and so on and so on. And social commerce is a latest trend for me, which is a bit, which is disrupting the market with Drouin, Kuaishou, all of those guys, and live commerce. It's really, really tough for the brands to be there because live streaming shopping, it's like it's a impulsive shopping. So you need to give a good price with the right KOL at the right time and everything. So you need to live stream like 12 hours, 14 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week. So it's a new way, definitely. It's challenging Tmall market shares, specifically Tmall market shares, not much Jidong market shares, but definitely Tmall market shares are challenged by Douyin live streaming and so on. But it's not easy for the brand to make money anymore on commerce. This is really, really where we are at this stage where it's getting almost too expensive in terms of media to have a good ROI on platforms. So you need to be more not only on the acquisition phase, at the upper funnel of the marketing, like you acquire shopper. You need to take care of your existing clients now, and then you need to cultivate repeat orders. You need to launch CRM program, which was not the case in China like 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you had no good CRM program in China, and now you are like a full omni-channel CRM programs for most of the brands. So yes, we are at this stage now, definitely. And the market is still growing, but if you look at the 618, latest 618 China, growth was like almost nothing for some categories and for some platforms. So it's a new normal in China. We used to have like 25%, 50%, 100% growth on e-commerce for each shopping festival, and actually now it's not the case. The last 618 told us like, okay, finally no, you have some categories that are flat, no growth anymore. So the growth comes from somewhere else, and somewhere else is social commerce. I believe retail will get back as well. I believe offline retail is going back to the game as well. E-commerce has not killed offline retail. It has changed offline retail by the way people would like to experience retail, but it has not killed at all social retail. Offline retail.
There are actually quite a few interesting things that you mentioned, right? So I just want to expand a little bit. So I think the first one is about the market here, the consumer market, right? So definitely, like you said, now the goal is to retain, right, the clients, and we know that probably the local consumers are not really loyal to brands. So how do you to go about it?
So I'm not sure. First, I think Chinese shoppers are more and more loyal to brands with time. It's when they discover like this kind of e-commerce with so many brands online, everything, they were jumping from one brand to another brand. If I look at the study right now, they are jumping less and less, especially from tier 1 cities, tier 2 cities. Tier 3, tier 4 and below, they are still jumping because they are in the discovery phase. But tier 1, tier 2, definitely less and less. If you look at what kind of yogurt you buy, what kind of luxury brand you buy, you have a lot of repeat orders, like in fruits and everything. So they jump less and less. But you need to, as a brand, you really need to increase the value of what you give to your shopper. So it's new product. It's not only about discount. It's something else. They need to resonate with you as a brand. So I always take like Nike as an example. Like when you buy shoes, you don't buy shoes with Nike. You buy Nike actually, because you can have the same shoes, like maybe half price with any other brand. And so it's like and they keep innovate. They keep innovating. Retaining a customer is complicated, but as soon as you have a strong brand, you can retain in a easier way. Okay, if you just push price, it's not going to work. Okay, you need to give them experiences. You need to give them something unique. You, as the brand, you are the only one to have. You need to have a good brand story, and it works at the end of the day. It really works. If you look at cosmetic brands, actually, especially luxury cosmetics, they have everything. They have the good product, they have the good story, they have the right experiences offline and online, so they can retain the shopper. And maybe your shopper will move from like Lancôme to Estée Lauder a bit, and Estée Lauder to whatever, but they're not going to go to a very cheap Chinese cosmetic brand. So it's beauty brands. So it's a bit different.
And also, recently I've seen a lot of information and posts about the KOLs, right?
Yes.
And I think the challenge is that we see the huge growth of KOLs market in China, and you see the Queen Via and then King Austin, right? But they are gone at the moment. Okay. So, and do you see it keeps growing, or this is going to be the end of era for KOLs in China?
I think maybe the end of the top Queen and King KOLs. Okay, because to me, like if you look at Tmall was like live streaming on Tmall was equals to Austin Lee, Li Jiaqi, and Via. It doesn't make sense from a Tmall point of view. I mean, from a platform point of view, it doesn't make sense. So I think it's more like we will have. It's going to become a normal way to buy part of the traffic. It's not anymore like the craziness. It's not going to be anymore like as crazy as before. But maybe we will have in the media plan, because it's a media actually, in the media plan, you will have 20% of the media plan with KOL from now on. And why not actually? I mean, because KOLs have their own communities, they have whatever. But and if you look at what, especially what Drouin is doing, BysoftChina is doing, and Xia Hongshu as well, they are more and more auditing KOL. Like now finally you have data on KOL. Okay, finally you have you understand how many fans they have, real one, not only fakes. How many interactions they have, what kind of engagement they have, how much they sell for each live streaming station. So you have this kind of transparency on KOL more and more. So it's going to be a reliable way to buy media or to buy traffic, as you buy RTB or as you buy anything else. It's going to be normalized to me.
Next big question about COVID. Definitely COVID brings a lot of changes, right? Borders are closed, people cannot travel. Chinese people cannot go outside. I mean, they can, but not many of them going. So they don't discover new brands outside of China, right? So now if you're a new brand, to enter China, I assume it's going to really be very, very difficult, right? And of course, other restrictions, offline events, or probably offline experiences as well, not as before. So what's the situation with the COVID and where it's all going?
So specifically for commerce, the COVID brought group buying platforms at the front of commerce battle, I would say. This is true, and this is going to stay, I believe. I believe like shoppers, they tried. It was a saving life for most of us. It was a saving life platform. Now they know their community, where they live. But we all know our neighbors, upstairs, downstairs, because okay, we We never talked to them before COVID, but now we know the community. So it's going. I mean, if I look at my community where I live, it's still going on. So it will go on, especially for food and beverage. I believe so. Fresh food, fresh fruit, fresh beverage. I think is going to last. For a new brand coming to China, it's never been easy anyway, especially because the market is expensive. The market entry is expensive, so you need to focus as this did not really change. You need to focus on a niche to start with, and then you can expand. But you need to focus on the niche. In terms of logistics, I think it's getting a bit better now, so we are almost back to normal. Which is more complicated is like, it's not like Chinese, like they don't travel abroad, that's true. But I'm not sure they discovered a lot of brands out of China. I think there is always a way to bring brands to China in terms of storytelling, in terms of branding and everything. And if you look at what's going on with Hainan, because in Hainan they have this huge duty-free market. I've
been there already a few times.
It's completely crazy. They are pushing a lot. So duty-free now is in China. It's not anymore like so the travel retail business actually moved from like airport to Hainan, basically. Yeah. So you still have ways to introduce new brands to the market. And marketing has not really changed like from before COVID and now. It's very consistent in terms of what platform do we use and so on. So it's not complicated. And cross-border commerce, I believe a lot in cross-border commerce, but in both ways actually. It's like foreign brands coming to China, but as well I believe more and more in Chinese brands going overseas.
That's not a big trend, right?
That's a very, very, very big trend. So, because people are saying like the world is decoupling between China and the rest of the world, but actually the business is not. Actually, like Chinese brands are still hungry for new markets. So they are still going first Southeast Asia, and then they expand to US usually, and then finally Europe.
What challenges they usually face when they expand?
But they have to make sure their product fit the overseas market they are targeting. But this one, it's easy part because they are very agile, because usually they have the factory. So if it doesn't work in, I don't know, in Italy, it's fine. Like they would like to understand what's going to work in Italy, and they do it.
Okay, so they're okay with changing localization.
Yes, they're okay with, from a product point of view, they have nothing to learn. They know how to localize the product. From a marketing point of view, it's another story. Because when you meet some brands, they say, okay, I'm cheap and I'm good. And this okay, fine. But this is not the way you sell in the US, or it's not the way you sell in Europe. Okay, cheap and good. Cheap is never good, and good is never cheap for a typical European shopper. So you need to change this mindset. You need to tell them you need to build a brand. You don't need to be the cheapest one in the place. You need to find distributors, offline distributors in those markets, not only going online if you can, and so on and so on. So this is a mindset change. Definitely, you need to work with, especially when there are manufacturer brands, like from factory to the market. So this has, because otherwise they fight only on pricing, and then you go to, if you go on Amazon right now, Amazon US or Amazon Europe, you will see like most of the sellers are actually Chinese. They are actually Chinese. They sell whatever, toys, whatever, you name it, with unknown brand. So it works in some like developing market, definitely like Indonesia, this kind of stuff. But it's not going to work on major markets where the money is actually, because American shoppers have a lot of power of buying. West European shoppers as well, British, French, German can buy a lot of things at a very high price compared to Indonesia. So this mindset has to change. But it's funny. They are learning by doing, and they are not afraid of losing a bit of money to learn, which is good. It's fun actually. It's really, really fun to do.
Who's helping them to bring those products and brands to the market?
So you have specific. So they have three challenges basically. They have logistics, finance, and basically agency business. So services. Logistically, it's not that complicated. China is well connected to the rest of the world, and they know how to export. Which is more complicated is the last part, like delivering to a Spanish customer in Spain. This is a bit more complicated. So they need to work with a third-party logistics company. But this is not complicated. Financially, it's a bit more tricky because you need to pay sometimes advertising in euro or in US. So then it's not that easy in China to push the money out of China. So it's a bit more tricky. So they are learning. And from a service point of view, you have a few agencies in China like helping brands to go out. But if as soon as they become big, actually, then they work with agencies in those markets. So they will work with American agency in America and so on and so on.
Well, that's lots of insights. And maybe the last question to wrap it up, I would love to touch a little bit on the technology side, since you also have the technology background, right? So what stack now is trendy when it comes to e-commerce, cross-border marketing, and what you are the most excited about?
So I think China is very, very late in terms of AdTech, so advertising tech, compared to the rest of the world. Okay, very, very late. If you look at what kind of products we have here compared to the products you can have in the US market or in the European market, it's. I mean, we are still in the baby steps in China, definitely. Okay, mostly because those big platforms like Ali, Tencent, and so on, they don't open. There is no API, so it's very complicated. You have a very limited API with Tmall or with Ali and so on, compared to what you have with Amazon, for example. It's much more. So it's easier to build AdTech or commerce tech out of China than China. So you have, as soon as those platforms will open a bit more, because they will open more, because now they have less and less growth.
So they have to.
They will have no choice. They will have to get the growth from somewhere. And AdTech, automation is definitely a way they will get growth. Especially like when you see like how we bid on Tmall, it's ridiculous. We have to go there still. We have to open the interface. We don't have like a AdTech system. Say, okay, I have my inventory and I want to bid everywhere within the market. Tencent inventory, Alibaba inventory, whatever, and Baidu inventory, ByteDance inventory. We don't have this. You know, in the rest of the world, you have an inventory, like it's called an ad exchange, and then you have everything on this ad exchange. You can bid on Amazon through the API, Google through the API, and so on and so on. YouTube through the API, Instagram through the API. In China, we don't have this yet. So, so it's not like it's not like China doesn't have the capabilities to do it. It's just like so far it's not open yet.
But it's definitely coming in coming years.
I guess so. I guess they will have to catch growth from somewhere. So I guess so.
Cyril, thank you so much. Lots of sharing, lots of insights. I'm looking forward to the next one, but probably at the bigger stage where you have the more PPT slides and
more PPT slides.
Study cases. Thank you so much for this interview. I'm going definitely to write down as well takeaways and make sure that our audience can see and learn from you. And please subscribe, share, comment, and we see you next time.